Right.
Yeah, thank you.
My counselor came in.
Good evening.
I want you.
Welcome to the September 15th, 2022 school board meeting. If we can do a roll call, please.
Michael Boucher.
Here.
Kay Knutson. Here. Donna Manthorn. Here. Kim Farah.
Here.
Stephen Finnegan.
Here.
Kristen Savage. Mark Sherwood.
Here.
Kim McCormick. Here.
Work.
Brian Boyle.
Here.
Excellent, yeah. Thank you. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Board members, you should have meeting minutes from the September 1st meeting in your packet. Let's take a look.
I'll make a motion to accept the September 1st minutes.
Second.
Excellent. I have a motion and a second. Any questions, concerns, comments? All in favor? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Oh, we're all here. That's nice. 9-0. Thank you. All right. Next is,
Steve, non-public.
thank you, non-public meeting minutes. Is that what these are?
Yep.
Thank you, Kelly. Keep me honest there.
No.
Is there nothing?
One more. Thank you.
Need another copy?
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the September 1 non-public minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? 9. Thank you. If I can have those back, please. Thank you. Delegates and individuals?
You want a motion to seal those, or they'll just stay
They
sealed?
were already sealed. They were sealed.
Yeah. Thank you. No delegates and individuals. I did, as we start, I did have just one update to the agenda that I asked for, is just with sort of recent happenings going on. I wanted to see if our superintendent could just give us an update on our bus situation. I know many parents have experienced some challenges with the buses. And so, Chris, I'll give you the floor.
Sure, thank you. So we do continue to have difficulties with transportation. In fact, this week it's worse than it was last week, where we were short 4 drivers last week. As of today, we are short 6 drivers. It's this constant cycle of, well, some come back, or some new folks are being trained, or some new folks have gone online. Oh, now we've lost somebody else. It's still the driver shortage is the critical issue. We have lost drivers to other companies. We have lost drivers due to illness, or due to, some short-term leave, or, some other kind of leave. They have 6 drivers in the queue that they expect. On average, it takes about a month to bring a driver on board if they're a brand-new driver. It could take a little bit longer. If they're not a brand-new driver and they have some experience, it can take less time. If they're an experienced driver, it can take maybe just a week to get them on board. So they have 6 in the queue, some being maybe a week or 2 coming online. Others might be a full month before they come online. Unfortunately, it's been this cycle now, I can tell you, for several years. I've been hearing the same story every time I get an update, not just here, but previous to here. Yeah, we're going to be okay in 3 weeks, and in 3 weeks we're not okay. So it continues to be a challenge. We're working with First Student to try and provide as much information as we can so that it's more predictable for families, but it is a real challenge. So I'll try and do a quick explanation, and I'm putting this together in writing. Want to post this stuff on our website under transportation on the web page to provide at least more background, exactly what format, frequently asked questions or something like that, we'll see. But backing up, that's what you'll hear them say if you say, what are they doing to fix it? They're backing up. That means if bus 110 is your child's school bus and you're in Sandown, for example, there are 7 school buses that pick up elementary schools, for example, in Sandown. That means any of the other 6 buses, if bus 110 is not running for whatever reason, short or long term, short being as short as that morning, the driver from 110 couldn't make it in. Up to the other 6 buses, it might be 2 or 3, but it could be as many as 6, are backing up. And that means that either during their route while they're picking up other kids to go to Sandown North, they are going to, if they're near a street, they're within proximity, they're going to go over and pick up a couple of kids on these streets, deliver them to school. They may then also go back out and pick up kids after they drop kids off at Sandown North. And additionally, it might be another 2, 3, 4, or up to all the buses in that town will be going to pick up all of the kids from bus 110. We know that's not ideal as far as what's predictable. It's hard to say it's going to be any one of these bus numbers because we just don't know where in the route they are going to pick up. They're doing this via two-way radio in the moment as they can. It's an all-hands-on-deck approach to trying to resolve the issue. Understanding that if parents are there, it's a little bit more comforting, especially for the younger kids, that if a parent's there, they're going to have a conversation with the driver. They're going to make a decision that, okay, I believe this is a school bus. The buses should say Timberlane School District on them, but, I know the concern would be, and I would, as a parent, I'm concerned that what if my 4th or 5th grader is the only child at a bus stop? There aren't other adults, and it just so happens to be the first of a backup of that bus, right? So now we have a bus driver with whom I am not familiar pulling up to me saying, Chris, come on, get on the bus. This is the bus to school. I totally understand that's not an ideal situation. So we're looking at whatever ways we can to try and address that or correct that. And try and provide as much information as possible to parents, but there just isn't a really predictable solution that we can provide predictable information to say, here's what's going to happen. And we know it's happening routinely in the morning and in the afternoon, same thing. It's a little bit better in the afternoon, but it hasn't been perfect by any stretch. We still have challenges where I call Atkinson, if the bus company calls Atkinson Academy and says, look, bus 117 isn't running in Atkinson today, we're going to be backing up, and the kids, here's a list of kids, and these are the streets that we want these kids that live on these streets to go on bus 103, and these ones to go on bus 104 because there's no 117 this afternoon, and we're able to send a message out about that. However, we have had errors where either, I think there have been times that maybe we've put the child on the wrong bus, or the list is incorrect, and the kids are placed on a bus that we were told to place them on, but it's not the correct bus. But at least when we have that, we do provide a message out to parents via our voice alert system saying, please expect the bus to be late, delayed, and your kids to be coming on bus X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of takeaways for parents who are watching and those who have questions, right? One is that it feels like this is fairly unpredictable and it's due to driver shortage. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is what I want to direct folks to is the website. So when you go to the Timberlane School District website, there's under the transportation tab, there's a way of logging electronically a complaint or a challenge. What I learned tonight is that directly goes to the bus company, but it also comes to the superintendent, and it's tracked in a spreadsheet. So, that's something that we, I think is a good, multiple people are seeing that. For parents, we hear your concerns where I think it's really important that we get this right. I think, as we all know, there are shortages in every field, everywhere, doing everything, and the buses are kind of seeing that right now. We hear your concerns, we hear your frustrations. We're going to continue to work with First Student to get this right. But if you have a question or concern, please use the website.
On the website, under transportation, you'll see bus stop safety safety concern / requests. And that's a place to, it's a Google form. You answer the questions. It's pretty simple, demographic information, and then what are your concerns?
Is this the only bus? This is just purely for my information. Is this the only bus company that we can use?
So interesting. You should ask that. Today,
It's obviously
actually,
not working.
what's that?
We have a contract with this company.
Yeah, we do have a contract. So, in the shortages, we have two different bus companies that provide for all of our students. Durham School Bus provides our special ed in-district and our special ed out-of-district. They too have had shortages, even though there are far fewer routes. They have had shortages, and we've had days, and you might have seen on social media or heard from parents that say,
So this is what we're stuck with
well,
for now.
Right now.
Okay.
that there are concerns with that, but also for a student. And as I said, this is, I've said before, this has been going on for a decade, this bus driver shortage. It's been good. There was a House bill to address it. Obviously, legislation didn't address it. But I did meet today. We had a proposal meeting. The request for proposals went out for transportation. We are looking for bids on in-district general ed, in-district special ed, and out-of-district special ed. We did have 4 bus companies attend the pre-proposal meeting. Not attending that meeting does not preclude them from submitting a proposal, but we are encouraged by the fact that there were multiple companies, at least here for that, considering submitting proposals.
Good.
Awesome. Thank you for that update. We'll continue to monitor it as we move forward. So, first piece of business is the strategic plan update. Chris, you have an update on the thought exchange that went out and the ILD policy. So,
Yes. So, our thought exchange went out. As of today, we've had 379 participants who have participated in the thought exchange. There are 257 thoughts that have been entered, and there have been 7,220 ratings of thoughts. So I will once again ask, please go on, and I'm sure you'll be looking forward to, but I'll provide another brief voice message tomorrow or Saturday to try and encourage folks to go on. I strongly encourage all of our staff to please go on and make sure that you share your thoughts and you rate the thoughts of others. It's a really helpful tool for us. So what we're doing for the strategic plan, I don't know if want me to give a brief overview
Yeah,
and then join
please.
committees. So the intent of this thought exchange is to start with our end result, basically. What is it that we're looking for our graduates to know and be able to do when they graduate from Timberlane Regional School District or Timberlane Regional High School? And so we want to then design our strategic plan working backwards from that. What are all the things that we need to do to get us to that end result? Is that about as brief as it can be?
Yes.
Okay. So that we're using this as our tool to begin our strategic planning process.
great. Any questions or comments on that?
I thought are you going to speak to
Yep.
the, yeah.
Oh, you're still going, sorry.
Yeah, so we do have a question also designed for students. Now, I know a few of us have looked extensively at our policy. to make sure, because the policy ILD. So let me tell you what our question. Where'd my question go? Here it is up here. So we have developed a thought exchange question to go to students. We would like it to go next week, we were thinking, and give students also a week's time to answer the question, and then for students to continue to rate other students' thoughts. And that question would be, how can the Timberlane Regional School District best prepare you for your future after you graduate from Timberlane? Very similar question, but directly to the students, to hear the student voice in response to that very question. We've been round and round. We do not believe this is a non-academic question. We think it includes academics. We do not necessarily believe that policy ILD comes into play in that it's a non-academic survey, or that it's a non-academic survey, I guess questionnaire, but that it's designed to elicit information about a student's behavior, family life, religion, politics, sexual orientation, sexual activity, drug use, or any other information not related to a student's academics. So we don't necessarily believe that the board would necessarily have to approve that, but we wanted to bring it forward for your consideration so that, you know.
What is the question again? You want to pose to students?
How can the Timberlane Regional School District best prepare you for your future after you graduate from Timberlane?
And what students are you going to?
We talked about students grades 3 through high school, through 12th grade.
I think we're talking mostly about middle and high
Yeah,
school
but-
age kids, and the thought was that, so basically what Chris said is we're going backwards from, we wanted, when the first thought exchange came out, it was directed to our, not only just our Timberlane community, but to other businesses in the area, like, what was it, Pace?
Yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
we-
Reached out to Pace.
This
and-
first question has gone. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Right, so we reached out to different stakeholders in the community. We reached out to parents, general members from the community. We reached out to Pace and get some business community feedback. And now we're at the point where we're planning to reach out to students. And actually, I believe we're only looking at middle school
We
and high
talked
school
3 through
students.
12, and we ended with middle school and high school.
And the reason why we separated the thought exchange that way, because we felt that the question that was being directed towards the general community was specific to what they believed the future for these students would be, but the students may have a different perspective, so we wanted to separate that
Right.
thought exchange for that.
By
reason.
having two separate questions, it separates the data to be able to look at it, right? Just in the context of the students, just in the context of the adults. Yes?
I guess, and I'm not going to belabor this point, I'm not in favor of this question at all. Because the student perspective on something like this, I think of this from a college perspective. If I developed a curriculum, what the students think, relevant, is not as important as what, say, an external advisory board says that knows what is happening within that field and the skills that those students need. So I'm a little worried about the data that you're going to gather and the relevance and the validity of the data. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't want to get into an hour discussion on this question.
Fair enough.
But you're not bound
No.
by, you're
It's
just
really
doing it more
just-
as an exploring.
Exactly.
To see
This
if there's
is the-
something out there that might come in helpful, so.
Correct. And it's very, very high level. It's very just trying to get a feel for where to direct our strategic plan from perspectives from everybody.
And we're not requiring,
Nope.
it's
And it's all
optional,
anonymous.
and it's not designed to elicit any information that's personal,
Correct.
so I don't see it as an issue as far as something. I don't see it as a non-academic issue or anything that we have to deal with.
really
You're putting
look-
it out there as an optional thing in the first place, so.
It's to give the opportunity for people to share their voices, and that, all constituents, so the adults have their opportunity to share their voice, so too will the students, and, thought exchange, I point to Sandy, every time I say thought exchange, I sort of genuflect to Sandy, because she's our expert with thought exchange. The more and more that I've seen from it, it's a really powerful tool. It allows you to gather information and look at it in a variety of ways, and then, just consider that information. How we consider it, what we do with that information. You can't do anything if you don't have it, right? If you never ask, you will never know. So we're looking just to elicit the voices of all of the members of our educational community, and then give consideration to what they tell us. And, as we look to develop our school district, how do we consider what each of those voices provides us? So I understand your point, Dr. Farah. I understand your concerns. We talked about it quite extensively as a committee.
Okay, can I just elaborate though, not on that point, because I'm not going to go back to that and belabor it, but my concern here is looking at this policy now. When you go out to do this, let's say I'm a student, I may start writing something about, I better stay away from politics, attitudes towards non-binary students or something like that, okay? That, because I'm now writing about that as a student, my parents should have allowed me permission to participate in this survey. So I'm concerned that we're not protecting student rights by allowing them to participate in a thought exchange like this based on the fact that they need parental permission, regardless of my thoughts about the question. I'm just worried from that perspective now.
If somebody puts something in, it's the rating, and it's one thing to get the feedback from them, and maybe ask the question, but not have it be, ask the question, get the feedback, but not have it then be open for discussion and ratings.
No, but if you read this, did you look at this policy?
Yep.
I just don't, it says,
Where are you, on what part?
at the beginning, it said, no students will be required to submit to a non-academic survey, blah, 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 without the prior written consent of the parent or guardian that reveals information concerning the following: political affiliations, illegal, antisocial, self-incriminating, demeaning behavior. All of those could come out as part of
So the open-ended question could
the
create
open-ended
its
question
own.
could create this,
correct.
and then
I
you're
see
going to
what
have a
you're
big problem, I think.
But so couldn't what did you do this summer essay? That's an open-ended question as well, or any book report. How did you interpret the author's intent with XYZ subject, be it Huck Finn or
That's
Tom's?
true, but that's not spoken to in this particular policy.
But I
I'm
don't,
looking at the policy and making sure we adhere to the policy.
But I don't think the
this
policy and the
applies.
question asked matches up though, because all they're asking is, well, again.
What do you want to get out of
We're not
your
asking what
education?
your religion
It's,
is.
it doesn't
Right.
specifically state any of those things. I see your point, but if they have it in a way it's open-ended, I'm the student, okay, I type this, whether it's religious, political or not, and then the only people that are gonna see it is them and no other student, I don't see that.
De-identified, pretty much.
But that's not how thought exchange works.
Hang on. I just want to get order to this. Brian had his hand up first, so I want to go back to Brian, and then we'll circle back to this, if that's okay.
Well, I did. My initial goal was I was going to follow Kim's lead, try to keep it brief here, but am I understanding, what are you guys looking for, like an essay?
It's a 150 characters, so it's a couple sentences. What is it that you want to get? Yeah, it's like a tweet.
It's
Yeah.
literally a tweet, yeah.
Okay.
And then whoever, you can go in and rate other thoughts and ideas for the entire time that the window's open. So for this one, with the adults right now, the window closes at 11:59 Sunday night, the 18th. You can go back as many times as you want and rate various.
So you're seeing somebody else's responses.
That's what I was going to
Correct.
ask.
That's concerning to
And
me
that's
when you're having
concerning,
students responding.
Are they edited beforehand? So if somebody says, hey, I would like to see less XYZ population in my school,
No.
because if they're not pre-edited, then we're opening up a can of
and
worms.
that's,
And
right.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yes, please.
asking,
Yeah.
Yeah, hang on. I do want to, before, I want to get back to Michael as well. Go ahead, Michael.
Sure. So what I was about to say was related to what Kim said. So you're very limited on what you're able to write. It's 150 characters for both the what part of it and the why part of it. And having done it myself, you could fit probably no more than maybe like 2 sentences. On top of that, and I actually asked Sandy about this, if there happened to be a topic that came up that was negative to some degree, what's the chances of that particular topic being upvoted to the point where we would see something, I guess, embarrassing for the district or potentially dangerous? For one, from what I understand, it probably wouldn't happen. Could be in the thought exchange, but you would have to actually search for it because it would be at the very end of the rating, most likely. But the system does allow you to moderate to some extent. So you can, for example, if somebody said something they probably shouldn't have, it could be reported or flagged, and then a moderator could delete it.
Sandy?
May I just address a little bit of the functionality to answer some of the questions? So I think, to Dr. Farah's point, the reason this is in front of you is because we had that very conversation about does this meet the threshold? So it's why it's here. Secondly, the tool itself is designed, as Mr. Boucher said, where thoughts are visible, they're transparent. It is not designed for any one individual to go through and spend hours and rate 257 thoughts, I think you said we're up to.
Yeah, it's 7,220
right.
ratings, but yes,
It is not
257.
designed in that way, but it is designed to ideally have each thought be rated roughly around the same number of times by different participants, so that they all have a equal opportunity to be rated and read by members of the community. As Mr. Boucher said, the tool itself automatically has an automatic feature where it will recognize, and this is through the programming, there is not a person doing this, but the program itself will automatically flag before they're entered into the exchange any thoughts that name individuals specifically by name that could be identifiable, that include profanity, potentially offensive, harmful, rude, offensive language. It does not filter for everything. From there, the moderator, the district, those of us who have access to it, they're put in a queue, and we're able to review those. So, for example, an individual, one thought that I saw named a former teacher from childhood, talking about how valuable that teacher's class was and how much that person learned. And it was a Mr. Smith, for lack of another name. And so that is not identifying someone as a sort of target. It was said in passing. The thought itself was fine. We put it right into the exchange. It is not perfect. We as a district had conversation. I know Mr. Krieger, Mr. Kellen, and I talked about the value of an open, honest conversation with our community, because this is a public exchange right now. We're not talking about students. When we're looking at these, we're saying this is an individual in our community's opinion. Mm-hmm. All opinions are valid. And so we need the system to work and to really give us feedback on how our community feels with regard to the different types of thoughts that are in there. And that's quite honestly the feedback it's designed to give us. Individual participants are also able to flag thoughts that has happened since we opened this exchange. I can say that we reviewed all of them. We had conversation about them. Every thought that was flagged at this point was put back into the exchange. When they're flagged, they're periodically and temporarily removed from the exchange. So while it may appear that thoughts have been removed, that's because they're in this queue to be reviewed. One of us tries to get to it as soon as possible. We review it to make sure that it is not something that is going to be targeting an individual and be potentially hurtful or anything of that nature. If it is something that is based on opinion and answers the question, we do put it back in the exchange. To Dr. Farah's point, we can't prevent all thoughts that pertain to topics in the policy. from being included. And it is not designed so that we cannot shut down thoughts so that participants don't view all of them. So that's the way the tool is designed. It is not a survey. The data we get is unlike other surveys where I know you were talking about statistical accuracy and things like that. It's really designed to give us, and everyone spoke to this, high-level information, themes, topics that are important and vital to our community, so we can take that information back and ask another question or have an open forum specifically designed to that topic to get a different type of feedback and input from our stakeholders. So, just so that you're all clear on how it works, I hope that helped.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of have two different things here. I mean, as you presented it was the question of with the policy and asking this question, is it a violation of our policy? And I don't see asking that question as a violation of our policy. But I think the next step is using this tool with this question. Does it elicit problems that then we're going to have that potentially could rule out of that? And I think it does. So can we not ask the question through some other means and just get the information and put it out there as if you would like to participate, this is what we'd like to know. Send it and not have it be a thought exchange, so it just comes in private, and then the committee can look at it and see what's there, rather than take the chance.
To the students, you mean?
To the students, put the students out that, look, we're doing this, we've put it out to your parents and to the community, we'd like you to be involved, this is the impact, or the question we'd like to ask the students. If you'd like to answer it, please say it, and it comes in privately, and then the committee can look at it and see what they get for answers, and then it doesn't open us up to somebody doing something or somebody using it to put something on there, and 150 characters for these high school kids. They can say a lot in that because they know how to abbreviate everything, and we're not even going to know if it means what they're writing it to mean either. So I think the question's a good question. I don't think it violates the policy to ask it. I just think there's a better tool out there, so we're not opening it up for that back and forth and the public scrutiny.
Or is if there's a way of utilizing this tool to do it more privately? Because one of the challenges is trying to do an analysis of open-ended responses.
I don't think you're going to get a time from middle school to high school. Not everyone's going to, I mean, they're going to be quick things. And I think you're going to be able to flip through them real.
I think the
I
value
think
of
everyone's going to do it.
the value of the thought exchange is the answer and the ratings,
Right.
right? So I do hear you, because when you do put that out there, you're right. Like there's a lot of times we probably won't know what they're saying. And then now, to Kim's point too, they're going back and reading things that now we've put something out there that may speak to policy, right? So the beauty of doing it this way and looking at the community-based one is seeing the topics and the themes, and it would have been really cool to be able to look at that from the kids' perspective. Like, what's the number one thing that they're thinking about right now? Is it safety? Is it academics? What is it? But I do, which is why we
It
needed
just
to
takes one
hash
kid
it
and
all
one
out.
wrong comment, just like with
Right.
the adults,
Yep.
and it
So
can
it's
just
a-
set it off, so.
And unfortunately, maybe you could do it collecting two different sets of data where you do a closed option where it's private and only the committee is seeing that information. Then you collect your themes from that and send out another Likert scale
Right.
to,
Doesn't have
strongly
comments on it,
agree,
just-
have
right.
them
neutral, something on that nature so that you can collect even more data on some
Yeah.
themes that you find
Yep, and limit the comments, so.
and limit the comments. So that might be another way to
Great.
get valuable information.
That's why we bring it all together, right, guys?
Okay, so, we'll go to the budget piece. So I think it doesn't violate policy. I think we'll move forward on that. School board budget. So if everybody has the school board budget in front of you. Are there any questions? Are you voting on?
No, so this was provided, so this is the school board portion of the, our total, of our budget. And so what has been done, if you see the 2024 requested column, all we did was Maria basically put in placeholders based on previous expenditures, so she can begin the generation of her budget. So these are line items that are directly associated with you all and the functions of the school board. So we wanted to provide this to you for your consideration. If you want, we still have time, and you don't need to make any decisions about this today. Time to, something you can take with you, look at it, give consideration. We can discuss it at the next meeting or the meeting thereafter.
Yeah, like Chris said, no, this is for next week.
Oh, you want it for next week now?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's the presentation. But like Chris said, what I did was based on history and what I know we have coming up for this year. So for example, for audit, I know we have the GASB 75 audit, which is every other year. So I know that it's gonna be at least $5,000. I included it on my audit line. Things that I know, and based on what we had last year and 19, which were the most normal back years. That's basically what I put. But again, this is just a draft. This is me basing it on really in real data and things that I know. But obviously, it's the school board budget, and I'm open to anything.
Showing legal, you're down from actuals because of the less union negotiations. Is that what you?
Well, no, part is that, the other part is that I think under this administration, we're using a lot less legal resources on a daily basis.
Okay, good.
We're trying to find other ways with other districts to answer our questions and be more collaborative with other people other than attorneys too.
I know we've got 4,000 in here on school board conferences. I don't remember the last time anybody went to a school board conference. I'm just trying to look at a way to get the budget so that this budget is not up. And then I also see we've got 25,000 for other expenses. It would be nice to reduce those lines somewhat so that we come into line with what the voted budget was for 2023. Because if we're trying to level fund budgets, it sets the example if the school board sets a level budget.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Well, in effect, Kim, like you say, that other expenses, looks like we had one year was 8,000, 7,000, so you'd be hard pressed to spend 10,000 based on recent history.
Yeah. Yeah. So we would look to eliminate the,
Well, we're
like $1
at like
and,
$28,000 higher.
yeah.
So if we eliminate the school board conferences, Maria, that brings us to 24,000.
Yeah, so it's,
Knock 15 off the other expense.
Maybe knock 15 off the other expenses.
yeah, so it's
That brings
19.
us down to 9, and then maybe,
I would say the annual meeting supplies, just looking at the history of this, I mean, 3,500, you can knock 1,500 off of that. If you look at the history, I mean, we haven't spent more than 3,500. A little bit more in 2020, but
In fact, if we go back to the PAC for things like the deliberative session, we think we can cut costs.
Yeah, we don't need the sound system if we go back to the PAC. That is
And it's a lot more comfortable.
and is that that would fall under the meeting supplies? The sound system?
Annual meeting services.
services. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
We're still, and when we're doing the strategic planning, we're still in a conversation about what level of consulting we need right now. We all were tasked with coming back to the table with what level we think we need. So I'm not,
If that were to come out of this budget,
Right.
out
Out
of
of this
23,
budget.
that's
Yeah.
the
That's
25,000.
2020, okay.
Right, that's what,
where,
that
which one would
25,000
it
would
come
be.
out of? Other?
Other.
Yes,
expenses.
yes,
Okay.
yes, so things like consultants to the school
Yeah.
board, that's where that comes out, that's what that 25,000 would be for.
Okay.
So,
And if
Maria,
we-
can you just, so the annual meeting services, if we held this at the PAC, that 4,000 would just go away, because that's for the sound system?
I don't know
It's a
if
portion
it's
of
all, it's a portion. I don't know if all $3,500 that we had to spend on that is, I will have to look. I don't know
Okay,
from the
okay.
top of my head. But
Sure.
we probably need to spend money on,
Maria,
Printing
the
of ballots and things like that.
2022 actual is at 327.
I'm sorry, what was that? The 2022 actual is the actuals for this last year, for the year that we just closed.
The year we just closed.
Actual expenditures.
So we just
mean, I'm just-
knocked 19 off of this right here.
Well, that one, keep in mind, that one has more expenses because we had 2 special meetings last year.
Okay,
We
well,
had
that's
to
why I
have
just
the
wanna
additional adequacy aid. We had a
make sure we don't go too,
too low.
too
yeah.
low and then have that, that's why I wanted to
I
ask.
mean, it
what-
could happen again, but I don't
Okay.
think it has happened very often.
No.
So
So being in that, again, the same thing, the
I would say the
330 area
15,
seems. fair.
yeah, the like $11,000 to $15,000 range will be.
And it looks like there's a little bit on the school board clerk stipend that might be able to come down. We don't usually spend that amount of money. We haven't.
Yeah.
So,
And the school board dues, I mean,
no, well, the school board dues are what they are.
But they're
I know,
set
but we're
rate.
still, we're at 18 and we've never gone above 16.
Oh, that's true.
Do we add money
So
in
you
there?
could take
just
out, you know, you could take out
I don't know why they
like
put
something, but
voted. Yeah.
So right, you could take 1,500 out of that,
Mhm.
1,500 out of the other one, so there's an extra 3,000. So you're talking, knocking that down by 22K.
So, I'm fine with authorizing Maria to make those
Yeah.
adjustments
There you
to
go.
bring the school board into a level-funded budget for the upcoming budget cycle.
Okay.
Pretty clear where we want to.
So you want it level funded?
Is everybody
Make some
Or as close
adjustments.
to.
So is everybody okay with doing that?
I'm okay, well, the actual, you're talking about getting it down to 330, 380?
330, 380, yeah.
Yeah, so that's,
The requested.
Or the
I
vote?
agree, but that's 28,000, so if she can get within a couple of, I guess my thoughts are get within a couple of grand, that's your good, so.
Yeah,
Everything we just talked about, I don't know the exact number added up to.
yeah, it says not.
it's going to get close.
I think we had 3 or 4 grand
And
off.
we know we have the audit and that's bumping it up this
Yeah.
year, so.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
I mean-
the audit itself has caused us
So-
to bump up by.
So, but I think in those
9,000.
areas that we talked about,
Yeah.
I think they're reasonable cuts. And
Yep.
if we come in at the ballpark.
Yeah, and last year the actual spend was 327,
Right.
but we know we had the additional
Yeah.
special meeting, so that's probably a couple. Okay, I can
Yeah,
bring
so-
it back to the 330.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Maria.
But if, realistically, if you're looking at something like the audit and you're saying, I'm cutting this too, I mean,
Yeah.
just come as close as you, I mean, we'd like to see it that, but if
Comfortably,
you.
we want you to sleep
if
at
you
night,
come in
too.
and say, no, it really has to be 334, I mean, it has to be
Yeah,
so-
because that's one of the things that is very unknown because
Right.
of all the COVID grants. That's what really
Yeah.
bumped the audit
Oh,
up,
yeah, yeah.
and we still have 3
Right.
of the,
But
of
that's
the
what I'm saying,
COVID
those
grants.
those other little areas where we talked about, I mean, the other expenses, knocking that down 15,000, and the school board conferences and the
Yeah.
dues, I mean, those are all ways to bring that
Yeah,
down. some.
I'll try, and if I see something that, the other thing that I don't know is the legal, like I said, here internally, I know, Mr. Kellan has make a huge effort on utilizing legal resources the way we were utilizing them.
Well, we also had all the COVID issues and things that we were dealing with and trying to understand all of that too, so, so,
But it's still, we're always over on that line, so that's one of the ones that
Well,
worries me.
I think part of that too is, remember, we've gone from 2 unions to 6 here in the last couple of years.
And right
that's
now we're
really making-
negotiating 4.
Right.
so-
Right, so it's made a huge,
Right.
those involve a lot of
A
legal
lot.
expenses.
yep.
And
Yeah.
right now we're negotiating 4 and the three larger one, the
Right.
3 largest ones, so I don't know if we should also consider some.
Maybe not touch that one you're suggesting.
Well, I think so I think the board, like, we trust you to sort of bring it down to what you feel is as close to that 330 as possible. But obviously, you're our CFO, so we trust your
Okay.
judgment when it comes to that.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, next is the retiree celebration. Are we just saying that there is one, and it's on 9/21 at 4:30 at Zervino's?
Yes.
All right, good, great.
And,
Next.
It's open
If
for the
you-
public.
It's open.
It is open to the public,
It
and
is.
tickets are available. So,
Yep, reach out
It's on
to
the-
Heather Greenfield here at our office. And you can, you could email or call
Great.
Heather Greenfield.
Yep.
to, inquiring about tickets.
Perfect. Tickets are $40 a person, so,
and this is for the 2020 and 2021 retirees.
yes.
2022 and 2023 will be next year, or
And I
Following.
believe will include 1920. Heather's not here, of course, but
Great.
there was a combination. They were looking to do 2 years together. Sue Sherman spoke to me about
19,
that.
20 and 21, it's on the back.
Okay, yeah, so 1920, yeah, 2020, yeah, okay. And there might have been some that, I'll leave it alone. I'll let Sue answer the question.
All right.
Go.
If you have questions, you can reach out to Heather Greenfield, and she'll be able to answer those for you. So, next up is the 2023 All Eastern Music Festival. Mr. Schweiss is here. How are you, Mr. Schweiss?
Well, thanks. How are you?
We're well, thank you. So I'll turn it over to you and let you talk about this.
Yeah, so it's really exciting news, and I'm just it's a little bit out, but I just wanted to make sure I had board approval before I move forward with any of the students. We were informed by the New Hampshire Music Educators Association that 10 of our students last year scored high enough at the New Hampshire All-State Festival to apply for the 2023 All-Eastern Honors Festival, which is a huge number and a great honor, and we're really excited and proud of those students and the work that they've done. What that means is of all of the states, 11 states plus Washington, D.C., and any bases in Europe, they're allowed to participate in this. Only 2% of those students are selected from the state of New Hampshire. So if any of our 10 students are selected, it's only going to be 1 or 2. But because this is taking place in Rochester, New York, it's over 300 miles away. It's an overnight trip, and they would have to miss 2 days of school to participate. So I can't guarantee that any of our students are going to make it, but I wanted school board approval just so before we have them put the effort into applying for it, I know that we have the okay for them to be able to participate if they're selected to do so.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion to allow students that are invited to attend the All Eastern Music Festival on April 13th to 16th to miss their scheduled classes and attend the festival.
I'll second
So-
that.
And congratulations on
Yes.
continuing the outstanding work that you have traditionally done. So thank you.
Thank you. We've got
All
some awesome kids.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Excellent. Thank you. Congratulations again, and congratulations to the 10 students who qualified.
Very much. I'll pass that along.
Thank you.
Thank
Good job,
you.
Kurt.
Thank you.
Next up is our facility update. Carl, if you want to come on up and
Across the bench.
Flashback.
all right. So it looks like we have a couple of things that you want to bring. One is the dump truck, the electricity rates, and the PPB requirement for the district water.
Yes, sir. You should have executive summaries for each of those. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm recommending that we dispose of the 2008 Ford F-550, which has approximately 48,000 miles on it, and we'd like to take that to the state auction to get rid of state surplus stuff in October.
Good idea. Very good idea.
Thank you.
No. Any questions? Let's start there. Any questions on that? Everybody okay with? Yeah, go ahead.
If the new vehicle we purchased breaks down, what's our backup plan?
We have multiple vehicles, but this vehicle has been costing us money every year.
So there is some redundancy should something break down. We're not.
We have smaller vehicles,
Okay.
but
Cool.
we have multiple.
Cool.
avenues, and we can always call Busby Construction to come in. They're very responsive when we need an emergency something.
You can call Brian Boyle too, he's got a truck.
You have a truck? I'll give you a call.
I'm not sure I'll answer it, but you can call. But
3:30 in the morning.
But yes, your analysis is right on the money. The used truck market is through the roof, and
Yep.
Tim
We
Lane
should
does-
be able to get top
Tim Lane
dollar
does
for
not
it.
want to be into vehicles of that age.
14 years old, it's
Yeah.
it's costing us money
Move
more
on.
than it's worth, so, and we got a replacement for a reason.
Great. All right.
It's,
How?
it's
On the outside, not on the inside.
No, that thing is in perfect
trying to
shape.
sell a vehicle, you don't tell
And,
people it stinks.
Exactly.
Don't bring Maria to the auction.
The wheels are falling off, the engine's blowing smoke, it's fine. Jeez.
Just doesn't go fast enough for her,
Jeez.
Carl, we know it.
Right.
Boy.
Big problem. If it can't go 0 to 60 in
Maria
3
couldn't
seconds.
burn the tires off, so she's upset.
CFOs, you know, we need the marketing people.
Okay, great. Let's move on quickly to the electricity rates.
So, I made a bad decision back in the fall. I had a chance to buy electricity at 7 cents, and it's now up to 16. So, but it was a penny more than we were paying. It was a tough decision to make, and unfortunately, with the economy the way it's been been the wrong one. We're trying to. I'm working with working with a power broker right now, trying to figure out what our best options are, and he's suggesting that we bite the bullet, sign an agreement, and again, these numbers are very flexible. Tomorrow they're going to change. It's just that bad right now. So if we were going to start on November of 22, purchasing for a year would be paying 17.17968 cents per kilowatt hour for the next year. If we waited to buy our energy until November 23rd, so if we had a start date of November 23rd for the next group that we signed, it would be it would be as low as 12 cents. But again, that's for buying multiple, 4 years starting November of 23. So we could reduce our costs if we sign just the 1 year. I can't imagine this market's going to stay this bad another full year. So hopefully next year we see some better increases. So when we look to buy in November of 23, we can get it down below that 12-cent mark. The impact is going to be approximately $280,000 more. $287,000 more if we buy the 1 year for this year.
So you're recommending that we just lock in for a year, not for 4 years?
That is
Yeah,
correct, because
I
if
just-
we locked in at 4 years right now, we'd be paying 15 cents for the next 4 years. So I think we should bite the bullet right now and try to get it down next year.
What have we
Have we finished all the installation of the $200,000 of LEDs that we got?
So we finished all the high school, middle school, and PAC, and we're holding off to do the rest of them through the performance contract that we're moving forward with.
Jeez.
Nope, nobody knew this was coming.
I know, but I think I would make a priority to move forward with the
Yeah.
LEDs. I mean,
It's going to be on our list for next year. We can't do it right now, so it's,
we purchased all those LEDs?
no.
We didn't purchase? I
So
thought-
we
I
didn't
thought we had-
purchase everything up front. So what happened is we signed an agreement with the company to buy it. And after so many months, they reneged on the cost of the quote that they gave us. They said the prices have gone through the roof. With everything, it has, and they couldn't hold the number we were purchasing. So it was a decision we made just to hold off on doing the rest of it, and we're going to put smarter LEDs in, things that can talk to each other. So when you walk into a hall, the light turns on. 30 seconds later, they turn back off. It's going to be a lot more intelligent lighting than what we were purchasing. It's going to cost a little more, but it's going to save us a lot more.
Yeah, the main reason was because they were going to put a surcharge, well, I think it was like 30% on what they had, the price that they had bid for. So that was my decision. I'm like, I'm not paying 30% more for lighting.
Especially when we had a bid and they, no, we're not gonna honor that anymore. But the economy has just been that way. Everything is, as you know, is going out the window when it comes to reason.
What's historically been our contracts for electricity?
We pay this, the one we're just getting out the last 3 years was about 0.069 cents.
Oh, I mean, terms, length, the length.
5 years, 4 years.
So that's what we've been doing, really?
Especially when you can lock it into a lower price. The longer you purchase something, is the lower it's gonna go down, because they're sure you're buying it.
And like Carl said, we started looking last fall, and he said it was his fault. We were
You don't need to, yeah.
No, it's not fault,
would you
but we
know?
started
It's-
looking to see where we were.
10%
Obviously,
increase.
nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody-
will know that.
No, it's,
It was a collective, we had been looking together at everything, at the rates, and, I mean, we had until November of this year, so
Yeah.
I wasn't going to look on anything a year in advance,
Right.
not knowing.
I think this is the right plan going for 1 year, and then, hopefully reassessing in a year, and it's back down to, better rates, and then we lock in for, a longer period of time, but, any other questions on that? No? Okay. And then the last one was the water, the requirements for the water?
So the legislator just passed a law that reduced the parts per billion that we can have in lead in our drinking water. So when I got here, we hire Penachuk Water Company, and they take testing of all our supplies, including some lead tests in select places throughout our buildings. They're all fine. However, the state sent us an email a couple months ago saying, hey, you haven't done anything with the lead you found back in 2018. So they sent me the information they had back in 2018, and we have hundreds upon hundreds. Apparently back then they had to go through and test every single outlet in the building. So every sink, every slop sink, any custodial outlet, water fountains, all that stuff. They tested all those, and hundreds upon hundreds of them came back above the 0.05, I'm sorry, the 5 parts per billion level. So we were supposed to tell them what we'd done to take care of all these outlets that had high lead levels. Nobody's ever given them any information, so I have to go back in and retest everything, and they have a program that's for free, but it's very labor intensive. I have to go through, label every faucet, every outlet. They're gonna send me test bottles to go back and test everything, but the testing is for free, so it's just labor intensive. I'm gonna be working with the leads at each of our buildings to see if we can get the lead custodians to actually be responsible for doing that. Yes, ma'am.
if you already had testing that indicated that essentially all your faucets were above the PEL, I don't think why would you think that when you go back and, that tells me that it's the source, not the faucet itself, that's the problem. Can't you test at the source?
It's not the source, it's in the fixtures. Most of the fixtures are deteriorating.
You're
the
absolutely
lead.
sure that it's not the source?
Well, some of them have 75 parts per billion, some of them have 0.06.
Some of the
below.
sources.
Yes. Not the source, the faucets.
At any single building, are there different measurements from one faucet to the
Yes,
next?
multiple. No matter where you go in a building, you're going to have different levels.
I didn't realize they used
And I'm
lead
sure
in
that a lot of
The
this has been
solder,
addressed.
it's in the solder.
It's in the solder inside
The
the
old copper
faucet.
pipes.
The old
Solder.
copper pipes, the old faucets, when they were put together, they used lead solder, and the water just deteriorates those fixtures.
Yeah.
So I can say that a lot of the stuff has been remediated. We have brand-new water bottle filling stations in the building, so there's, those aren't going to be hot. It's just, I just have to go through and do the full testing. The law stated when they came out in 2019, you have to do the testing every few years, and then you have to have a total of 3 by 2020, the end of 2023. So we still have to test 2 more times before then.
And these are for all water receptacles, not just the potable ones?
That's correct. And what we can do, if we do have some that are above the limits that we know they're not being used for potable water, we can just put a sign over it that says not for consumption.
So
And
the
that-
slop
that'll
sinks, the
alleviate.
shop sinks, you
Slop
can do
sinks,
that and
right,
if you
yeah.
cross it off?
That can be the remediation you do.
I didn't know you knew so much. I learned so much here.
And it's, I can tell, I learned all that about the solder previously. It's not exclusive to here. That is
It's
what
every
they
school in the
used. I
state.
remember playing with the solder, the lead soldering.
It was a snap.
That came in a roll, right? And that's
Yeah, Googling solder.
that's
No,
why.
just-
And
I know.
as it breaks down, it winds up in the water.
They play with mercury.
I played with mercury.
I don't
all
know,
over my
if you're already
desk at
putting
school.
water
Oh,
filling
we need to
stations
come in.
in,
Thermometers.
it might be
Can I
cheaper to
change my
put
seat?
new faucets next to those where you've already got the plumbing and just get rid of the old.
We,
Seriously.
we've in my last district, the ones that were bad were like in the kitchens and stuff. We just do the kitchens, we do the sinks that kids are drinking out of. Those are the ones that you take care of. The rest of them we just leave as a non-potable water source.
Carl, is there any concern that there might be lead trapped in the pipes?
No. It gets flushed with the water. That's why it's detected when you do it. And you actually go through and you flush the system before you do the tests 24 hours beforehand, let it sit overnight. And then you come back and you get a true reading out of them.
Yeah, don't be the first kid to drink out of the faucet.
They tell you even at home, folks, run your water for about, they tell you at home, run your water for about 30 seconds before you take a drink out of it. That's
And test it.
That's good to know for you.
Test it.
Listen,
again.
guys,
You should pay the district.
come yeah.
That's another way we can reduce that,
Once you give that
the
extra chair
school board
stipend back
page
to-
with that stipend. He's going to owe us money in the end.
Stipend.
So,
sorry.
so, as far
Take long.
as, so as far as costs are concerned, I don't foresee us having a major cost right now until I find out anything different. As of right now, it's just the testing that's going to be free. It's just labor intensive.
Okay. Good luck. And thanks for all you do.
It's always something.
Yeah, I bet.
Thanks, Carl.
Any other questions for Carl? All right.
Thank you, Carl.
Next is the policies. We have the following policies for first read. Remember, it's just first read, so if you have questions, you can ask, but we probably need to read them first. So, policy BCA, policy BCB, policy BDE, policy GBCD, policy JKA, and finally, policy JLCJA.
I'll make a motion to accept those policies for a first read.
I'll second it.
Excellent. Any questions?
I just have one question on this negotiation. You're adding negotiations as a standing committee. Why aren't we adding that as just personnel? Why are we using the term negotiations? Because it can involve more than negotiations.
We discussed that. What did we conclude? Do you remember, Mr. Finnegan?
I don't.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Because
Because the committees, it's not, well, I think this is part of it, because there are multiple negotiation committees, right? There are, a couple of you are assigned to TTA, a couple assigned to TSSU, a couple, because it's so broken up that way, I believe that's why we went with negotiations.
I
think so.
think you're right. I think it was even more simple that this was what was recommended in the school.
In
Well, if that's the
Yeah.
terminology they're using, that's fine.
I think that's where we ended up, where it was like,
Combination of those things?
yeah.
Yes.
But I think you're right, Chris.
Okay. 4 of us think so.
Sounds good.
You've also, on this policy, have 2 asterisks. or the asterisk about all recommendations of the committee have to be presented to the school superintendent's leadership team before presentation to the full board for action? Is this actually happening? 'Cause if it's not, we should strike that. It's a question.
recommendations of the committees will be presented to the school. I don't think that's happening.
I don't know
That's
that.
not happening.
It's how it's happened. We
It's how it's
talked
happened.
about revisiting that, but it has not happened most recently, correct?
So then we should strike that for the second read. I'll amend my motion to accept these as a first read, with the addition of striking the last 4 lines from policy BDE.
Unless we want to return to that practice.
That's your call. I mean, I don't think so. What?
I'll second your
I,
motion.
All right, so I have a
You
motion,
have the motion,
I have a
you-
motion and so she,
she made the motion, I
yeah, so do
seconded
you?
it, she's amending her motion, so I will.
Yeah, Kristen
I
needs a
will
second.
second.
All right, super. Any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor of,
First read with that.
First read?
Yeah, that motion.
Katie doesn't even, yep, all right, that's 9. Fantastic, thank you. Next is the crossing guard position.
Yes, so, I'll speak to that, right?
Yeah,
I wanna,
that's
we'd
all
like
you.
to, once again, trying to fill these positions or position what was once a single position. There were actually 2, though, at one time, but just, with split the position so we can increase the likelihood of getting candidates. So perhaps somebody may just want to do the morning session of the middle school and high school, or we might get somebody that may just want to do Pollard, or we might get somebody that wants to do the combination, but to date, we have not had any recent applicants. So we were proposing to split it to see if we can, because we had heard from some folks that I might be interested in doing just the morning. Yes, please.
I don't think this requires our action unless you're going to somehow change these positions, so it's going to impact budget lines and add a line or something to the budget. But if this is all falling in under one position on the budget, it doesn't, in my mind, require our action.
Great, just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
I think we're all in favor of it. Just
Yeah,
everybody-
do what you gotta do to get
Anything
somebody
we
out
can
there,
do.
and if you gotta split them, go for it.
So while we're there, if anybody's interested in being a crossing guard / traffic control person.
Slash bus driver.
That looks so good out
Slash
there
bus
every morning.
driver.
Right, I mean,
Yeah,
Drive your bus to work day.
yeah.
all right, yes, seriously. Next is the, yeah, I know, I still get heart palpitations when I see this. The
Return.
return, thank you, return to school plan. So the review of the proposed changes to the ESSER safe return to in-person instruction plan.
Okay, this should be an action item.
What do we have for this information?
We have this information.
Yeah,
It should be
that should be
action.
action, yep. That's my fault. Apologize. All right. Chris, do you want to?
Sure, I can do that. So the executive summary highlights some of the information as far as what's being removed. And, I think, let's see. Did you want me to read through them, or did we?
No.
We just wanted to keep current
Yeah.
with this, revise the plan to be consistent with the recommendations that are out there. There are currently no requirements, but recommendations.
Right, but we need to update this periodically due to the ESSER funding.
Correct.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion to accept the updated return to school plan dated September 15th.
Second.
Any other questions?
No, God, no.
All in favor? Great. 9. Thank you.
I did hear in the news today, numbers were up, they're all-time low. They continue to drop.
Next is the safety training update school calendar.
Sure. All right, so we did have some time to work with both the TTA and TSSU Both organizations did inquire with their membership with respect to the early release days. There were some suggestions and some requests that might have made it more palatable and increased the attendance for some of the folks in either of those organizations, but they're not necessarily actions that we can employ at this time. We are still proposing, once again, thanking the TTU and the TTA and the TSSU for their commitment to this. Both organizations are very committed to participating in this training, increasing our ability to provide the safest possible environments in the event of some of the most tragic things that could possibly happen in a school. So we're grateful to both those organizations for that, and all of the organizations. We do have some information that, we do expect that there are some folks from, in some circumstances, as we expected, and there'll be those that we don't know, or that won't even know on that, they might not know until that day. If somebody's out sick or whatever, we need to have follow-up with folks that are unable to participate on those days so that they are able to be provided the same kind of information as close to as possible, the same level of training, because the next phase will eventually include, the entire school community, including students at some point, but nothing will happen until we have ample information and notice to families before we do anything like that. But I think at this point, really for nothing, at the very least, because we need to let families know ASAP that these dates, if we are going to move forward with this kind of training, that these are going to happen at the end of October with those specific dates, with that information provided to families, that we need to move forward with that.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept approve the updated school calendar so that the safety training can occur.
I'll second that.
Any other questions? All in favor? It's 9. Thank you.
So you're gonna get a notice out specifically? 'Cause
Yes.
we talked about this at the last meeting, so you'll get something
Yes.
out that, rather than us reading through and going through this, you'll put it in writing,
With
so
a
it'll be out
revised
there for.
calendar.
Thank you.
So do we need to make a motion to actually revise the calendar as well?
I
I did
think
just
that's
make.
fine.
Oh, that was just a,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just the training. Okay, great,
Yeah.
thanks. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Next is Maria, going to present the unreserved fund balance for FY22.
So back in August, I presented the preliminary one, which we usually do. And I just wanted to present the final, which is the one that ties to the MS-25 that we presented. So we are giving back to the taxpayers $3,625,116. That's the unreserved fund balance that we're giving back to the taxpayers, and that's.
So it's a little bit higher than we've seen in the past few years, but really, the reason for that is we had unanticipated revenue from Health Trust of about $800,000. We had another $200,000 that came back to us as we withdrew from the SAU, and another $170,000 on Medicaid. So those are revenues that we really wouldn't have going forward. So it's right in line with what we've been carrying as our unreserved fund balance.
Yep.
For the last several, between $2.5 million. So it seems a little high, but that's only because we had some unanticipated revenues to offset the expenses.
And the $800,000 from Health Trust, the board voted when we received it to give it back to the taxpayers, so that was
That's
already
great.
known. We also have, as you can see at the bottom, I did like a little summary of what really was the biggest impact. We also have salaries and benefit savings of $1 million. We have almost $300,000 savings in transportation, and we have an additional $1 million savings in special education services, which was mostly outside tuition, because not all the programs were back in place, so that's where the savings came from.
Yeah.
Same with transportation, some of that savings was because we still weren't up and running.
Up and
everything.
running full,
Right.
100%.
With COVID.
Mhm.
That's great news. So, okay. Any questions?
Do you have to vote on the retention?
you.
Excellent. Thank you, Maria. Next is the proposed superintendent's goals. We did have these for the last meeting. I didn't get feedback from anybody. So I put it back on here to have a conversation. I took the feedback as everybody thought they were good and there were no changes.
I did add Dr. Farrer, in my attempt to respond to you.
Right.
Right.
Thank you. And the other one, and I'm sorry, I didn't, under special education, maybe we should add, instead of just saying special education audit, just special education, have the audit as one and then have the results of that survey, because we just expended the money on the survey.
Yep.
I'd like a deliverable to the school board at some point on what those results were.
So those results would be part of the audit, but we can add that.
Oh, okay, well, if they're part of the, I don't,
Okay.
that's fine, then just leave it. I thought,
Yeah, that is part of
okay,
the audit
that's fine,
process.
that's fine.
Are there any other thoughts, comments on superintendent goals?
I think I just have one other thought or comment, is that, there's quite a few goals here and quite a few deliverables, which I would anticipate a lot of these would come to the board, is that you may want to think in advance about how you're going to schedule these to come to the board and when you're going to produce certain deliverables, because you can't do it all at the end of the academic year.
Right.
Sure.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Michael?
Yeah, there was just, and maybe it's already included in point number 8 about the anti-bullying practices. I was wondering if we could have a deliverable in which you would maintain a record of accountability to ensure student safety and enforce anti-bullying policy or anti-bullying practices.
Can you say that again so I can write it down? Sorry.
Sure. Maintain a record of accountability to ensure student safety and to enforce anti-bullying practices.
What exactly do you mean by that statement? Maintain a record of accountability. I mean, they are required to keep records.
Well, I'm just going based on the actual deliverables. I mean, if that's already happening, yeah, I guess it's
So that's
Wouldn't that be part of 2? I mean, adoption and implementation of anti-bullying plan and curriculum? I mean, if the plan is to require certain reporting or accountability, it's kind of incorporated in there, I would think.
The policy itself is,
Yes.
it's essentially a
Right.
script from the law that
Right.
does require maintenance, investigation and maintenance. I can tell you on September 29th, we actually have Drummond and Woodsum coming to provide training to all of our administrators. One of the key areas of focus is bullying investigations. That's something we've been working on. And, but there are requirements for maintenance of those records and for the investigations. And I'm somebody that, and I know Justin is this way too, if you ask a question, it's an investigation, so make sure we document it as such. But,
okay, as long as there's some form of documentation happening.
yes.
Just want that clear. Okay.
That's great. Thank you. And I think, to be fair, I think that's in line with a lot of the conversations we've had around bullying over the last, few months. So I think that makes sense, and it's good that it's in there.
And the other part, of course, though, is of number 2 is that, and once again, I genuflect to Sandy and Lucy over in that direction, because regarding curriculum and, supporting student learning about anti-bullying practices and focused on how we're able to support that in our schools for kids.
I don't see. Steve was just asking a question about voting to adopt these. I think, Ryan, you and I are probably the only ones. In the past, didn't the board vote to approve this the superintendent's goals and then use those as a basis for the evaluation.
Evaluation, right.
Yeah, so we should
Yeah.
vote to approve this
Okay.
superintendent's goals.
no
I'll make that
changes yet.
motion.
Are there, yeah, oh, you can make a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for this iteration of superintendent goals. Are there any other comments or questions? All right, with none, all in favor of the superintendent goals? Great.
We should be thinking about the evaluation process and the
Yeah.
timeline, however.
I have, yeah, I just wrote
So-
that down. Nope, that's fine.
Just because in the past it was, oh yes, it's in the fall, because if you're planning it budgetary wise, you've got to think about what the superintendent's salary is going to be for the subsequent year. Just
Right.
letting you
Yeah,
think about that.
so.
And it's outlined in the policy and in the procedure.
Is there a procedure?
There is a procedure
For this
connected
policy?
for superintendent evaluation. I'll find it for you.
So, as a follow-up, I'll work with you, Chris, to develop a timeline for the deliverables to the board, and then we'll also do a timeline for evaluation as well.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that procedure. I don't think I've ever seen it. I don't know if it's relevant to me, but.
Well, yeah, it's. Well,
No, I mean, to the board, I don't know, I just never remember seeing a procedure. Maybe I did, I don't know. It's been a while.
We'll get that for you. I'll, you want a hard copy, or, I'm just kidding, just kidding. Last is the, last part of this section is the school board budget committee meeting dates. So I know we had some conversations about some of the meeting dates. The budget committee proposed a joint meeting with the school board on November 22nd, but due to the holiday and some of the school board members have a conflict, the budget committee has offered 2 other dates. So thank you, budget committee, for doing that. One is Thursday, December 8th. The next one is Thursday, December 22nd. I personally would probably look at the 8th because I think the 22nd's a little close to travel for the holiday. But I'll open it up to the board in your thoughts.
The 8th.
The 8th?
Agreed.
The 8th?
That's a non-meeting day for the board, right?
That is a non-meeting day for the board.
I just caution the board that there are 4 union negotiations going on in December. We'll be quite busy, I guarantee it.
Yep. So it's good to lock this date in now, and
Well, put it, I mean, out of the 2 dates, that's the one that's gonna
Yeah.
work for everyone if we're gonna do it. So if we're gonna do it,
right.
let's tentatively, we'll plan on that, but as you said,
Yeah.
if negotiations or something, that's gonna take a priority. So if we have to change this because we have something else, we're gonna have to do that.
Yep.
But let's hope that we can move everything else forward and it won't be an issue, but at least we have something on the books.
Excellent. So whoever's on the budget committee, Mark, is that you? We'll just let them know that the 8th is.
Yep.
Great.
You might want to announce this vacancy.
Oh, yeah. Not funny? No? All right, cool. So there.
Last night. You don't have
Yeah.
to read the whole thing.
No, I wasn't going to. So, just an update that there is a Plastow vacancy on the budget committee. So, if you're interested, reach out to your selectman.
No.
Reach out
To the budget committee.
to the budget committee. Submit. Yeah. So.
With the budget committee.
See, I should have read this. Registered voters of the town interested in applying in Plastow may bring a letter of interest with qualifications, experiences to the SAU office. And the submission deadline is Tuesday, next Tuesday, the 20th, with the anticipated appointment date of October 27th, 2022. All right. Administrators report.
Okay. Well, part of that was transportation, so we took care of that. Done. But something really great, the Timberlane Regional School District, we were awarded the Division I Sportsmanship Award this year by the NHIAA, and that is a great reflection on Mr. Angelo Fantasia, all of our coaches, all of our staff that assist, our volunteers, and certainly our student athletes. In addition to that award, what we also received, the Award for Excellence by the NFHS. So Timberlane recently recognized for things that I think all of us here know, that, you know, a major focus of that which we do, especially with our athletics, really speaks to sportsmanship and the way in which we participate in those athletic events and the way that our community supports us. So again, thank you to all our coaches, Mr. Fantasia, and all of those volunteers that help to support all of our athletic endeavors.
Chris, what does that stand for, the last one?
Yeah. Well, that's
Okay.
New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association for the NFHS
Yeah.
is National Federation of High School Sports. NFHS, National Federation of High School Sports. Thank you.
Okay.
That would have been tragic.
I was just curious.
Yep.
Thank you.
But
Who's the
that
evaluation?
right. Where do you see it? That's
No,
CBI-R. You have seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was the one, we
got that.
Oh, we did get this.
Yeah.
we approved this. This, when we withdrew from the SAU, we made sure that we had everything in line.
Okay.
Ryan Boyle remembers this. Jen Silva worked, we looked at two different evaluation instruments and decided on this one.
So does the chair get to decide who in here gets to fill this out?
We need to.
I'm just kidding. I was just kidding.
Okay, okay.
It was a joke.
My guess is there might need to be some lining up, and if there needs to be adjustment in goals or whatever,
Yeah.
to satisfy the way in which it's evaluated. I don't know. The way I looked at it was, I'm open to anything. Is my point.
Okay. Awesome. All right.
I like feedback.
I'm going to share 4 additional things. Two
Sure.
are just updates, and then 2 are just kind of messages for the community, if I could.
Great.
Just to update the board on where we are with the continuing conversations with post-secondary education institutions about getting interns in the school. For those 3 reasons I think we talked about prior. Ongoing conversations with SNHU. We're on target to host 7 to 9 interns in the special education department at the high school beginning in January. So that is a go and ready and signed, sealed, and delivered. Riviere. We're still trying to look at geographic matchups for their students and see if any of our schools are geographically located for them. Interesting with Riviera, they're also interested in talking much more longer term about entering a partnership that may be 5-6 years out, being a site that they could always continually depend upon, and integrating some of their kids into our programming here. So that's an interesting conversation. We'll see how that kind of develops down the road. UNH, we have progressed in conversations with them. Since they're such a large institution and have so many students in their ed programs, they actually have an application process for schools to apply for site-based management. So we're going to participate in that at the high school and the middle school level. It's a competitive application. They're going to do some site visits in school. All of that stuff will conclude by the end of October. And then we'll be getting some realization whether we're going to be chosen as a site for that. But that's a commitment that we look into for 4 or 5 years with UNH. So it's be a strong partnership if we can kind of get through this first hurdle and kind of get interns into our schools working with us that way as well.
That's great.
Those are those 3 schools. In terms
Excuse me,
of yeah,
are
sure.
we also looking at that for like PTs and OTs?
I was just going to ask about related service
anyone who
providers.
carries a credential. Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Other thoughts or other pieces of that? Really a message for the community around food service. We wanted to continue to reiterate for folks that the major change this year is that breakfast and lunch is no longer free and available for all at our schools. It is back to a pay-as-you-go kind of site. And to that end, we're doing some data crunching with some lunch balances that the food service department has. We're able to ask some really good questions. We got some really smart people doing some data crunching with some numbers, and we're going to do some individual personal outreach. We're able to target those things and get 1 of 2 outcomes, either some collection to support the food service there, or more even appropriately, delivering some resources to families that may get them more support to that end. So those are some efforts that we're underway with. Safety reporting, again, for the community as we look to keep our schools the safest places they can be. We are encouraging students and staff members and people in the community that if you're hearing something or seeing something of concern, that you are saying something to an individual or an adult who is a trusted individual in your life, whether that's your parent, whether that's a school, whether it's the principal, the teacher, and be able to get it to the right people as quickly as we can, and then we can start making decisions that way. So really good efforts in the community there this week. We just wanted to emphasize that and continue to ask for the community support in keeping kids safe at school. And the last thing that I will share this evening is around Camp Lincoln. I think a lot of you folks know that we send sixth graders there for a two-day day experience at the outkick of their sixth grade year. I got to spend significant time there over the last 2 weeks on 2 separate days, and just wanted to give my observations that I thought the site itself was really well designed and financed. The facilities are top notch. I was really impressed with how their staff interacted with our students. Every activity had a debrief, and talking to kids about why things worked well and why they didn't work well. I thought that was time well served. And also our middle school staff that was there with the kids, interacting with them through those activities and participating alongside of them, I thought was just a good recognition of a shared power relationship in teaching and learning. So good things to come from that experience there. If I could add a fifth thing, going back to the thought exchange, if I could add just as, I think we should be in a position where our kids have something to say. We should be listening to that. And we should be trusting that the school district has mechanisms in place to handle anything that is outside of those bounds. Just like we do when kids are posting on Google Classroom, just like we do when kids are posting on forums. We have mechanisms in place where we can maintain that level of conversation, but also allow students to be able to share their thoughts so we can hold those of value and make some of those decisions moving forward. So,
Thank you, Justin.
thank you.
I don't think we have, do we have anything on the personnel report? I don't think we do. Committee reports, I will start on this side. Mike?
Sure. So we've already talked a little bit about what's going on in the strategic planning committee. I would just add that we are going to be meeting on September 28th to review the data that we've collected from the thought exchange, and then we're going to proceed from there. And we're going to have a follow-up meeting. I believe it was October 4th. And then the only other thing I was going to add is the capital improvement committee is having a meeting on September 27th.
Great, thank you. Katie?
Just at the safety committee, we have our next meeting on September 20th, and we're just gearing up for the safety training that'll be held hopefully in the end of October.
Thank you. Shauna?
We have wellness committee coming up October 12th.
Yep.
Yes. CIP he just mentioned, and then energy was rescheduled, I believe.
We canceled.
Canceled, excuse me,
I don't
yes.
think we rescheduled.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Kim?
So energy was canceled. We're still doing union negotiations. As Michael said, we've got CIP coming up.
Great, thank you. I have nothing to add. Kristen?
I got nothing.
To add. Mark?
BudCom took tours of the high school, middle school, the PAC, Sandown North, Sandown Central, Danville. We did reach out to the community. We had 1 or 2 people show up. We are, I think, are pretty aware of some of these structural needs that need to be addressed. Again, it is really good to see it in person, and I would thank Carl if he was still here. He's an extraordinary tour guide. I will also mention that just recently we had the college fair that and I ended up going to. I was impressed much more than I thought I would be, just by the caliber of schools that were there. Colby, Bates, to Maritime, to ITT, to the military services. But more impressive was actually seeing students who I think a lot of them generally don't talk with a lot of adults, but actually actively engaging. And I have to tip my cap to the counselors that were there, because I saw them several times, grab, kids not by the ear, not literally, but, hand around the shoulder, hey, let's go talk. What are you interested in? It was extraordinarily well set up. Everything was alphabetized. There were sheets in the way in. What are your interests? Here are the top 3 that these schools specialize in. It was very well done. It was very well done.
Great job.
Do you want to hit curriculum and assessment? Yeah.
Great.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, so curriculum and assessment met for the first time this school year. we set the dates for the rest of the school year. We did a few first reads. And next meeting, we'll do second reads and hopefully get a few things to the board by the middle of October. And we are starting to look at classroom sizes to go to policy, probably around the same time, probably November. And that's curriculum assessment. Wellness has a date. Union negotiations, TSSU, administrator's assistant. Those are all starting or ongoing. And I just wanted to say about strategic planning, Sue Sherman has joined our ranks, and she was such a welcome person. She was fantastic, and she just kept us moving and kept it light, and she was a great addition. So I just wanted to add that.
And that strategic planning meeting is October 5th, I believe, the Wednesday, right?
Yes,
So
I actually made a mistake.
Yep.
October 4th is for the Curriculum Assessment Committee.
Yes.
Great. And well, I still have a moment. We have one more tour for the facilities.
That's right.
Starting at Pollard Elementary and ending at Atkinson Academy.
When is that?
Monday,
I'm
right?
sorry. Yeah,
No,
it's Tuesday,
Tuesday, the
September
20th.
Starting at
Thank
5.
you. Okay.
Atkinson first, then Pollard?
No, this sheet had Pollard first.
Pollard, do I have it backwards? Okay.
Brian?
Just, hold on. I like my new role you give me, Steve. I just have that one little union thing, and that's all we're doing. I'm good.
Well, you can have some of mine.
Well,
Plenty
you're
to share.
doing a great job. You're doing great.
You know, I do, you know, just for, you know, I think it's really important that the public sort of understand that this board and all boards, but this board in particular, and all of the work that we're doing that's outside of these every other Thursday meetings. Everybody's really engaged in multiple committees, you know, so first of all, thank you for that. And thanks for all the hard work you guys are doing on your committee work. And I know it's a lot of work. Trust me, I know it's a lot of work, but really appreciate all the work you guys are doing. And so thank you for that. Nothing.
I echo that on behalf of administration and the rest of the district employees and community. We're grateful for the sacrifices that you all make and that your families make to support us and to support the school district for all kids. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you for that. Nothing in the correspondence folder. I think that is, I think that's it. So we will end the meeting at 8:37. There is no non-public this evening, so this will be it.
Thanks.
Great job.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Oh.